In this video, we will be taking you through the contract details notice, giving some background on when and how the notice is to be used, and what information needs to be included when publishing one. The purpose of the notice is to inform suppliers and the public that the contracting authority has entered into a contract as the result of a procurement procedure. It must therefore always follow the contract award notice and any associated standstill period. Contract details notice are also required in relation to certain below-threshold contracts, although no standstill period is usually attached to those contracts. This notice is also required upon the establishment of a framework. This will tell interested parties which suppliers are on the framework, as well as what the core terms and conditions of both the overarching framework agreement and any subsequent call-offs are. Additionally, this notice will be published to inform interested parties that a call-off contract has commenced. Before entering into a public contract with an estimated value of more than £5 million, a contracting authority must set at least 3 key performance indicators in respect of the contract. These should be detailed in the contract details notice to provide visibility on the indicators against which the contract is being assessed. Once a contract is signed, set timescales for publication of the notice apply. For a public contract, which is a contract with a value above the threshold amount for the type of contract, the notice must be published within 30 days of the contract being signed. For light touch contracts, the notice must be published within 120 days of the contract being signed. And for notifiable below threshold contracts, the legislation states that this notice must be published as soon as reasonably practicable, though no fixed timescale is given. For contracts valued over £5 million, UK regulations require that the contracting authority publishes the contract within 90 days or 180 days if the contract is a light touch contract. This requirement will not apply to Welsh contracting authorities unless a Welsh contracting authority awards a contract following a procurement under a reserved procurement arrangement. Different information is required to be input into the contract details notice in different situations, and a full description of the required information can be found in Regulations 33 to 37 of the Procurement Wales Regulations 2024 and in the associated guidance. In the next few slides, we will discuss a summary of the information required for each type of procurement. The following information is a summary of the information required when completing a contract details notice for contracts where the open or competitive flexible procedure has been used. The information is information about the contracting authority, the title of the procurement, the unique identifier for the procurement, the unique identifier for the contract, where the public contract was awarded by reference to a supplier's membership of a dynamic market, the unique identifier for that dynamic market, or where the public contract was awarded under an appropriate part of a dynamic market, the distinct number given to that part by the person who established the dynamic market. Information relating to the subject matter of the contract. Information relating to each supplier which is party to the contract. Information about the type of contract, such as whether the public contract was awarded following an open procedure or a competitive flexible procedure, and whether the contract was reserved to supported employment providers or public service mutuals. Where the contract is being awarded by reference to lots, the title of each lot and the distinct number given to each lot by the contracting authority, and information relating to the kind of goods, services or works which will be supplied. The estimated total value of the contract, the date when the public contract was entered into, whether the public contract is a special regime contract, and if so, whether it is a concessions contract, a light touch contract, or a utilities contract, whether the public contract is a contract for which the United Kingdom has obligations under the GPA, or the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, where key performance indicators were set in accordance with Section 52 of the Act, a description of each key performance indicator, and information on how often the contracting authority will assess performance against the key performance indicators, or where key performance indicators were not set, an explanation of why the contracting authority considers that supplier performance under the contract could not appropriately be assessed by reference to key performance indicators. The following information is a summary of the information required when completing a contract details notice for contracts where the contract relates to the award of a framework. As with the previous slide, much of the same information is required, with the exception of information related to key performance indicators. However, some additional information is required when a framework has been awarded, such as the contracting authorities entitled to award public contracts in accordance with the framework. This can be by either listing the names of those authorities or by describing categories of authorities. The term of the framework, whether the framework is awarded under an open framework, which is a framework that provides for the award of successive frameworks on substantially the same terms as detailed in Section 49 of the Act. The unique identifier for the procurement of the last framework awarded under the open framework, unless no framework has previously been awarded under the open framework, and the estimated end date of the open framework. Whether the public contract was awarded following an open procedure, a competitive flexible procedure, or was a directly awarded contract in accordance with Section 41 or 43 of the Act. Information regarding whether the framework provides for fees to be charged to a supplier in accordance with the framework, and, if so, details of the fixed percentage they will be charged in accordance with Section 45 of the Act, as well as the price payable or mechanism for determining the price payable under a public contract awarded in accordance with the framework. Details of the selection process to be applied on the award of a public contract in accordance with the framework. The following information must be included in a contract details notice published under Section 53 of the Act, where the public contract was awarded in accordance with the framework. As with the slides on the open or competitive flexible procedures, much of the same information is required, with the exception of some information which wouldn't apply in the case of awards under a framework, such as information relating to a dynamic market and information regarding obligations under the GPA or Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership. However, some additional information is required when awarding a public contract under a framework, such as the unique identifier for the procurement of the framework in accordance with which the public contract is being awarded. Where the framework is arranged by reference to lots, the distinct number given by the contracting authority to the lot under which the contract is being awarded. Details of which procedure was used to award the public contract. This will be either a competitive selection process for frameworks under Section 46 of the Act, or an award without further competition under Section 45, Paragraph 4 of the Act. Where an award without further competition was made, the contracting authority will also need to provide an explanation of why the contracting authority considers that Section 45, Paragraph 4 applies. For example, because there is only one supplier party to the framework, or the framework sets out the core terms of the public contract and an objective mechanism for supplier selection. The following information must be included in a contract details notice published where the public contract was a direct award contract. As with the slides on open or competitive flexible procedures, much of the same information is required, with the exception of some information which wouldn't apply in the case of direct awards, such as information relating to a dynamic market and whether the contract was awarded following an open procedure or a competitive flexible procedure. However, some additional information is required when directly awarding a public contract, such as where the contract was awarded to a supplier who is not an excluded supplier, the authority will need to state which of the available direct award justifications listed in Schedule 5 of the Act applies, and provide an explanation of why the contracting authority considers that the justification applies in this case. Alternatively, where the contracting authority is awarding the contract to a supplier who is an excluded supplier, whether the contract was awarded directly to an excluded supplier because the contracting authority considered that there was an overriding public interest in awarding the contract to that supplier, and which of the potential grounds for an overriding public interest listed in Section 41, Paragraph 5 of the Act applies, and an explanation of why the contracting authority considers that it applies. whether the contract was awarded directly to a supplier pursuant to regulations made under Section 42 of the Act, which covers direct awards in order to protect life, as well as the title and registration number of the statutory instrument containing those regulations. Whether the contract was awarded directly to a supplier that is not an excluded supplier by virtue of Section 43 of the Act, which covers switching to a direct award. An explanation of why the contracting authority considers there were no suitable tenders or requests to participate by reference to Section 43 paragraph 2 of the Act, and why it considers that an award under Section 19 of the Act, which covers the award of public contracts following competitive tendering procedure, is not possible in the circumstances. Whether the contract was awarded to a supplier that is an excluded supplier due to contract termination by virtue of Section 41 paragraph 2 of the Act, and the offence or other event mentioned in Schedule 6 of the Act in question which led to the termination of the contract. The following information is a summary of the information required when completing a contract details notice for below threshold contracts. The information is information about the contracting authority, the title of the procurement, the unique identifier for the procurement, the unique identifier for the contract, information relating to each supplier which is party to the contract, information relating to the subject matter of the contract, where the contract is being awarded by reference to lots, the title of each lot, and the distinct number given to each lot by the contracting authority, whether the contract is a light touch contract, where the public contract was awarded by reference to a supplier's membership of a dynamic market, the unique identifier for that dynamic market, or where the public contract was awarded under an appropriate part of a dynamic market, the distinct number given to that part by the person who established the dynamic market, the estimated total value of the contract, the date when the contract was entered into, a description of any option in the contract to supply additional goods, services, or works, or to extend or renew the term of the contract.